Hey guys, I am Lana. This is from Corporate to Crystals. We're back for another video. This video is going to be another one about the economy, specifically within the US, but if you're familiar with finance at all, which you don't need to be, the US economy is very intertwined with the global economy. So whatever is going on in the US economy, it will impact the global economy because the US dollar is currently the world reserve currency, the majority world reserve currency. I'm going to get into that a little bit. I want to be very clear. I am not a financial advisor. I am not a professional at all of this. I just happen to have an interest in finance. So I just want to share some information. What I'm seeing going on is a completely different narrative based on education system or education level, I should say, within the finance world. So I'm going to kind of show you guys a little bit of what I'm talking about. But on a spiritual perspective, we've got a lot of old systems collapsing, and we've got new systems that have yet to be kind of like visible or shown. Okay. And so what we will be doing on a spiritual level is be using our own intuition to guide us along our journey of how to make the right decisions for us. Okay. That's why I want to share this information so you guys can kind of get a full understanding, or kind of full, I'm doing my best, of like micro to macro where we're at right now. I happen to just like really enjoy finance. And so it's just something I've always kind of like been a little interested in. And I'm just noticing there's huge gaps of knowledge going on right now. So on a individual level, let me show the news today right here. Okay, so I typed in US financial collapse. As you guys saw, I did a bank collapse video, and I think in that video we had like 4 banks that were like collapsing. We're past that now. And because of that, we had a huge one that is considered like a very large bank that essentially it's not looking so hot. You know what I'm saying? I just don't want to like sugarcoat it. It just is what it is. So these titles are kind of like interesting to me. SVB collapse, which is Silicon Valley Bank, which is the first bank to collapse, was fueled by people on iPhones and won't spread across the US banking sector, according to Blackstone CEO. That was 9 hours ago. Here's why banking turmoil may not blow up into a financial crisis and stocks could still be set up for a bull market, meaning things are looking okay. That was 2 days ago. Fear gauge shows Wall Street's worries about the banking crisis have largely subsided. That was 2 hours ago, okay? I have no idea what these people are talking about. Like from my perspective, I don't have a clue why they would be saying that other than to lead people astray. Okay. And I'm going to give you guys some information to kind of like show you why I'm saying that. Some of you know way more about this than me. So please like comment to help educate people if you have like resources or links or whatever. But there are a bunch of financial YouTubers out there who are actually knowledgeable about this stuff. I'm just trying to take like my bare bones knowledge and spread it to you guys just so you can make your own personal decisions, because I feel protective. Like I don't like what's going on, and I want people to be able to like have knowledge so they can make decisions for themselves, because no matter what currency we all use, we all work hard for our money, and money is a representation of energy, right? So the future, who knows what it's going to look like, but it's all about energy exchange. You put energy in, so you get money in return. That's the current currency system. It could be totally different down the road, but the fact that your energy was put into something and you receive currency for that energy spent, because you can't get it back, right? Then you get to do whatever you want with your currency, okay? I happen to be in the US. Because of that, the US economy is, the one I'm participating in. And I also, as I've traveled internationally, I've always thought it was really interesting. I went on a trip to Argentina a handful of years ago, and while I was there, local Argentinians were talking about how they save all of their money in US dollar. And I was so like ignorant and confused about why they would do that. But what they were explaining to me is that they save in US dollar because their own currency is always so unstable and on the brink of collapsing. And this is not just an Argentina thing. This is like Venezuela and all these countries that you hear about their currency collapsing. So I kind of wanted to get into it just a little bit. Again, I'm not an expert, but I want people to like get the information. It is absolutely a part of our reality, so let's not bypass it. We have to have our full awareness of the duality within our time matrix we live in so that we can navigate through it consciously. So by having awareness of things, we can consciously make decisions by following our intuition for our own self, not based off of what the media or whoever is telling us to do. Okay, so in regards to the other countries saving in US dollar, because the US dollar was the most stable currency. That was an old story, okay? And that was true for a bit, but there was still more going on behind the scenes that no one was really understanding. And so I'm going to get into that a little bit here. But what's going on now is any of the currencies that are considered fiat currencies, they're actually no longer, their currency is not backed by like a precious metal like gold. Okay, so they're kind of not backed by anything. So you can do your own research on this, but fiat currencies have a very high probability of failing because they're not actually tethered or linked or backed by anything of true value. So the US dollar was migrated away from the gold standard, meaning every dollar was backed by gold. So it had true value. It was simply like, you give me this much gold, that equates to this much US dollar. And then rather than carrying around heavy amounts of gold, people were able to carry paper, okay? That is how it originally started. So the dollars had real value to it. Then what happened, and a lot of countries do this, is they remove the gold standard, and then it becomes what they call a fiat currency. And you can research this yourself. The US dollar is a fiat currency, and that currency then was not backed by the gold standard, so the US could do whatever they want, essentially. As that was happening, the US dollar is, still considered the world reserve currency. The Federal Reserve uses US dollar. The world reserve currency that a lot of people were doing business in, I think it was, the numbers are all over the place, but I read it was like 70-ish% of the world was doing business in US dollar. A big chunk of that was oil transactions with Saudi Arabia, because they had a deal with the US where they would provide security for Saudi Arabia if Saudi Arabia did their business in US dollars, okay? So there was this global economy where people were using US dollar at whatever percentage and whatever countries, it was pretty prominent, right? And what's been happening over the last however many years is people have been watching the US economy getting progressively worse. And as that's happening, these other countries are choosing to no longer save their money in US dollar. They no longer want to do business in US dollar because they understand that the US dollar is not in the best place, okay? And the thing that really bugs me the most about this is that it feels like the people who are going to find out last are the people in the US, because they're so used to the US dollar being stable that they didn't realize currency can even be unstable. So all these other countries who are used to kind of having currencies fail and kind of having to navigate through this, they've already been through this a few times and they've come up with their own systems. The US doesn't even know to look out for this, which is why I want this video to like be out there for people, not to scare everyone, but like this is the reality. This is where we're at. So I just have to help however I can. So other countries are returning US dollars. They're taking their US dollars that are being saved or that they're spending, and they're actually converting it to gold. And they're converting it to other currencies. We'll call it crypto, we'll call it whatever. Every country kind of has a different strategy. But the consistent theme is that US dollars are being returned, okay? And we're not talking about small bank account numbers. We're talking large quantities of numbers of US dollar. And what happens when that happens is it throws off the economy, because we no longer have, the same system. It's not flowing the same way. We now have a big chunk of other countries that are returning US dollars, and they're now going elsewhere to do business in a different currency. So we're losing our footing as the world reserve currency, okay? So if we're losing our footing as a world reserve currency, obviously the US doesn't want that, because that's a power position for us to be with a world reserve currency, or the world reserve currency in our currency. That's a power position. But when you have not been handling your finances properly, then of course that will be exposed, especially because it's like government information, it's public, anyone can pull the data. And so I want to show you guys, let me pull this. Okay. So this is a chart from 2007 to 2022, and you'll see 2008 collapse right here. This is basically a chart of the US debt, okay, and it's increasing, so it's going up. So the debt is increasing in the US federal debt. So this is when the Great Recession, the 2008 collapse happened, Budget Control Act. Here we are with the COVID crisis at this spike, and now we're kind of like, we've passed this already. So we've been consistently printing more and more money. So I wanted to read this. This is an article from January 20th of 2023, so earlier this year, before any of the bank collapse stuff was happening, okay? It says, on January 19th, 2023, the United States once again hit its debt ceiling, which is currently capped at the time of this article at $31.4 trillion. Around that time, the Treasury Department began implementing extraordinary measures to stave off default. Default meaning unable to pay bills, okay? The United States government, unable to pay bills. While those maneuvers will buy some time, lawmakers still need to address the debt ceiling and avoid the economic damage that would come with the default on any obligations. Okay, the reason I wanted to share this is because the United States is doing a really good job of making people feel like the economic collapse that's happening right now is linked to all of us doing bank runs on our phones or whatever. First of all, that is absolutely a micro version of what will create the collapse. We've got way bigger issues that have been going on for far longer, and I want to make sure you guys are aware of them so that you can decide what systems you want to use going forward. Because what I think is happening is they are creating this pandemonium and the economic collapse that's going on to take the banking system and minimize it into some of the consolidated banks. Those consolidated banks will then be on board for the CBDC, their central bank digital currency, their crypto, the US crypto that they're creating. The banks that they work with, essentially, they'll consolidate down to those. This is a theory. And once they consolidate the banks down to those banks are on board for the CBDC. Then everyone will choose to transition away from the US dollar because it is collapsing. And rather than transitioning away from US not being in power because their currency is failing, they'll be able to migrate people to a new currency, CBDC, which is this crypto one that isn't backed by anything, and they can play with it however they want, track everyone, do whatever they want, watch how you spend your money, close your account off if they don't like how you speak or whatever. All sorts of fun stuff that who knows what the future holds, right? All I know is based on the financials of our government, I'm not letting them have access to my finances anymore. And I want to show you guys what I mean. Okay, let me share my screen. So I talked about the world reserve currency. Some of you guys probably already know this, but the world reserve currency is basically, we have something called the Federal Reserve, which is the Federal Reserve System is a central banking system of the United States. So the central banking system of the United States uses the US dollar. And since we do business with other countries through that, that is why a large quantity is done in US dollar, essentially. I hope I said that correctly. The Federal Reserve System was created over the years. Events such as the Great Depression in the 1930s and the Great Recession during the 2000s have led to the expansion of the roles and responsibilities of the Federal Reserve System. Okay, so that's just a little bit of kind of like recap. So when we talk about world reserve currency, I was like, what's in the news? Let's see what's going on right now. Biden lets China threaten the greenback, meaning US dollar, status as the world reserve currency. Okay, and I'm not like a political person really, but this all ties in. So follow me for a bit. Let's see. Prepare for a multipolar currency world 1 hour ago. Yes, the dollar's proportion of global reserves has sunk from 72% in 1999 to whatever. US dollar status as world's single reserve currency will end by 2025. The US dollar is the world's currency standard. That may not last. These articles are all within the last 20 days, okay? So let's go to the next one. Then I searched US dollar, and sure enough, third article down, it says Brazil-China strike trade deal agreement to ditch US dollar. And I knew exactly what this was talking about. So I wanted to tell you guys about something called BRICS. If you haven't heard of BRICS, I'm not gonna like spend tons of time on it. But basically it's an acronym, pardon me, I'm shaking my table. It's an acronym that stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, okay? The first four were initially grouped as BRIC. South Africa was added in 2010. Okay, so basically you'll see over here on the side, we've got the BRICS leaders and they're all hanging out, having a good time. Okay, so what is BRICS? Well, BRICS, I took notes. Basically, in summary, please do research on this if you want to, but BRICS is an alliance for a new world order as an alternative against the West. Okay, the West meaning the US or the West. But so what it's sounding like, and again, a lot of you probably know about this already, is whatever is going on with the United States economy, there's allies pushing that order. There's allies that are coming together, alliances that are coming together and working with the US to continue to move forward that plan, okay? That order. And then there's another group of people who are aligning together to create an alliance against the West. The first five that started it were the people who started BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Pending to be added to BRICS currently is Egypt, which actually I think just added today, UAE, Indonesia, Argentina, Mexico, which will be very controversial, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is a really interesting or bad one, let's say, because Saudi Arabia actually had a deal with the US where they did business in US dollar for oil transactions in trade for the United States, kind of protecting them from a security perspective. And they're pulling away from that deal and migrating to an alliance with BRICS. And if that happens, that's a huge chunk of US dollars that are no longer going to be utilized, let's say. They're shifting to a different option. That is why I think this is really necessary to talk about, because of course we're talking on a micro scale of what's going on with your bank account, my bank account, going on in our region, etc. But at a very large level, we have massive shifts going on where we have alliances being created away from the US dollar. Okay, let me share my screen again. Let's go to the next article. Okay, so BRICS gold standard, that's what I searched here. BRICS countries mulling formation of single gold trade system. you're going to see a lot of information about this gold standard because BRICS is the obvious opponent of Western global influence. BRICS is using gold to back their currency that they're aligning on, okay? So you're going to see a lot of conversation around how BRICS and the reason why they're all like coming together for this alliance is they're not only coming together as an alliance against the West and against the US dollar because it is unstable and they see that. They also, from a power position perspective, they can all supply gold to back a system. That way it's not a fiat system. That way it has less likelihood of crashing because there's true value behind it with a gold system, right? So this is getting a lot of people's attention because they understand fiat currency versus gold standard. And gold standard is just the safest way for people to have something that's backed because it has true value. With the US continuing to, print money, it basically is the equivalent of all of us going out and like getting 10 different credit cards and just like putting as much as we can on each credit card and then just never paying it off and then continuing to get more credit cards. That is what the US is doing, straight up. They're printing more money, and every time they print more money, then they'll write a bill to raise the debt ceiling because they create a debt ceiling and then they blow through it. Well, with every economic issue, COVID being a great example, we did stimulus checks. How did we get those stimulus checks? They printed more money. And all of that money comes back to the taxpayers as well. So even the bank bails, right? There's something called a bailout or a bail-in. Bail-out meaning bailed out by, let's call it the taxpayers. Bail-in meaning paid out by money within the organization. Let's call it bank accounts or whatever, right? Do your research on every deal is a little different. But my point in all of this is so much bigger than all of us running to the bank to get money. That's not why this is breaking, okay? So don't let the media tell you or make you feel fear about handling yourself and your family the way that you need to, because the system is so much less stable than what they're making it sound. And it has been for a long time. And the moment a deal like Saudi Arabia joining BRICS, it's all over the news, do your own research. If Saudi Arabia joins BRICS and those US dollars are no longer kind of like a part of our economy, inflation will get worse. And the word that has been thrown around is catastrophic. Okay, and I don't like saying that. I don't want to like promote fear, but the first thing we feel might be fear. The next few things will be preparation and awareness, right? That's what we need. I don't want people out there just trusting the media. And just because some of you may not have like finance background, that's not your fault. You should be able to trust the people in leadership and the people in charge to give you accurate information so you can make conscious decisions for yourself and your family. And right now, I can't confidently say that everyone has the ability to have the information so they can make the right decisions for themselves. So I just want to share a little bit of breadcrumbs so people can do that. And I'm also seeing in my personal reality with people going through their own financial stuff right now, we're seeing credit limits on credit cards being decreased without warning. We're seeing frozen accounts throughout the world. Look it up on Google. I anticipate that could be something that we see in the US, because how are they going to control people moving their money when we all have smartphones? Or not everyone, but a good chunk of people, right? So yes, I understand the bank run stuff. Yes, I'm not promoting everyone to like go take their money. What I'm saying is pay attention. Pay attention right now. And then also understand that there's something far larger going on here. And it's not people taking their hard-earned money that they did an energy exchange for and then trusted the banks by putting their money in the bank The moment your money is in that bank, they reinvest it. So it's not just sitting in an account. So there is a far larger system going on here that people need to be aware of. And if you have that awareness, even just a little bit, to go do your own research, there's so many good finance YouTubers out there. Just search and you'll find people. There's people at every level, and they are all saying something completely different than the news. So the more education you have around finance and economy, the more you understand that we're in a tight spot right now as a US economy. And because our economy impacts the global economy, this is a big story. And I don't like talking about it because it feels intense, and the world's already intense enough, right? But it is a responsibility for me to share this information because I just want you guys to have awareness if you were not seeing this already, right? I hate the news. I don't look at the news, but I am a part of the shift. I am a part of making moves out of this system because I happen to know the system. I was in business in this system. So it is now my obligation and responsibility to get myself out as well as help others. You make your own conscious decisions. I'm simply just trying to reflect some stuff to you. That's it. But these systems, if we choose to get into another one with the same people who are in power of the one currently that they're breaking because they're basically living off of crazy amounts of debt, I'm not interested in that because it's not sustainable. I would prefer to be a part of whatever currency I choose, whatever, long-term financial system I choose to be a part of, if that's where we go. I don't know. My point is, I don't want to be a part of anything where the people who are in charge of the system, they don't even understand finance. And if they do understand finance, then they're proactively trying to destroy our economy. So you guys do research for yourself. Just stay safe, pay attention. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Okay, bye.